Legendary Pokemon. Yes, the rarest Pokemon to ever exist. Ones like Mewtwo, Rayquaza, Lugia, and Arceus. There's about a 0.001% chance of one spawning, and I'm dumb enough to spend another 100 days catching them. Now, this is not my first time attempting this challenge. About a month ago, I was able to attain quite a few legendaries, but I was unsuccessful in completing all of my goals in the journey. One of my goals was to get a shiny legendary, and I did that with Zeraora. Another one of my goals was to get a legendary fusion Pokemon, and I did that with Hephaestus. But the goal that I failed to achieve was to get a mega legendary Pokemon. There are only a couple of legendary Pokemon that can mega evolve, and in order to mega evolve them, you need their Mega Stone and a Mega Ring to perform the evolution. And I didn't have either of those. So getting a mega Pokemon will be one of my few goals in this 100 days. But here are the rest of my goals. First, to defeat a player in the war zone. The server that I play on has a war zone where players battle to climb the leaderboard. Every 2 months, there is a new war zone season, and whoever ranks among the top 3 placements gets really good rewards. Also, legendary Pokemon spawn very often in the war zone, so if I could catch one there, that would be great. But what I didn't mention is if you lose a battle in the war zone, the other player gets to steal a Pokemon from your team. It's a very high risk, high reward area, only for the best trainers. My second goal is to attain a custom textured legendary Pokemon. Not only does the server have a bunch of custom Pokemon, but they also have custom textures, especially for legendary ones, and I really want to get one. And my final goal of this next 100 days is to get rich! Having a lot of money is really important in PIXELMON because it allows you to buy any Pokemon your heart desires. You see, with all these other trainers playing on the server, you're able to buy and sell pretty much anything you want. So I will be setting a staggering goal of trying to attain $1 million. Anyway, boys, it's time to start our journey. It's day 1, and first and foremost, I'd like to introduce everyone to the squad. Coming in at 23 feet, 455.3 pounds, Noodle! Also known as Rayquaza. I chose Baby Rayquaza as my starter Pokemon, and look at it now! Next up, Sponge. I named my Volcanion Sponge because it sucks up any water move with its water absorbability. Then we have our first ever fusion Pokemon, Hephaestus! The god of fire. Hephaestus is a fusion Pokemon between Entei and Moltres, making for a fiery hot combo. We also have the Nightmare Pokemon, X-Wing. This is a past paradox form of Yveltal called Iron Nightmare. Our last 2 Pokemon on the team are Doctor Strange, the god of time, also known as Dialga. And last but not least, we have Meraora, a fusion between Zeraora and Mewtwo. I took a little break between my first 100 days and this one, so the first thing I decided to do was check out my house. I was really hoping no one found a way to break in and steal all of my belongings. Luckily though, that wasn't the case, and everything seemed to be in one piece. It also seems like a lot of people moved into the neighborhood. I'm always happy to accept more trainers to the community, so if you guys want to build your house here as well, make sure to join the Zacian server and type /warp Sirud to get here. I certainly had some plans to improve my house, but before I started on any new projects, I wanted to test out some of my Pokemon to dust off the cobwebs. So I RTP'd and decided to make Trapinch the first Pokemon to ever go extinct. This was amazing. No matter which Pokemon I used, any Pokemon that stood in front of me was instantly eviscerated. No Pokemon stood a single chance. I know I was doing this for fun, but it was actually productive because I was slowly but surely completing a legendary scroll that I had in my hotbar. Scrolls range from common to legendary, and by completing them, you get some pretty good rewards. I didn't make it a main objective, but completing the legendary scroll would definitely be a side quest during this journey. And so I decided to continue bubbling wild Pokemon until my heart was full and content. But then, out of nowhere, this happened. A legendary Groudon spawned right in front of me. me. I couldn't believe it. Only one time in the last 100 days did a legendary Pokemon spawn in front of me, and I was not expecting one to spawn on me this quickly. And I started panicking and tried to gather my thoughts. And so I checked my bag to see if I was prepared for such an encounter. And, well, I wasn't. I forgot my Master Balls at home! Luckily, I did have a ton of Ultra Balls, though, so there was definitely hope. I decided to start the battle with Noodle, but I was too afraid to attack it on the off chance that I KO it. After my killing spree on the rest of the desert Pokemon, I know my team is capable of anything. So, to start the battle, I played it safe and threw Ultra Balls instantly. And, to no one's surprise, it was extremely ineffective. I was getting anxious and desperate. What if I don't catch this thing? I don't want to attack it, but I also don't think there's any way I could catch it with it being full HP. You see, the weaker a Pokemon is, the easier they are to catch. And after throwing about 20 Ultra Balls at it, I was really contemplating my next move. And so, I decided to risk it. I used Dragon Claw with Noodle and prayed it would leave the Groudon weak. And, well, it certainly left him weak. Too weak. I killed it! I was absolutely devastated because Groudon is not only one of my favorite legendary Pokemon, but he's also insanely strong and has the ability to Primal Evolve, which is essentially a much cooler Mega Evolution. I definitely missed out on a big opportunity. Or did I? I was so sad I didn't look at my screen for a few seconds, but eventually I saw it. The Groudon dropped an egg! And this isn't just any egg, it's a legendary baby Groudon egg. This was perfect. So I rushed into my PC, placed the egg in the first slot, and ran around the desert as fast as I could. Groudon will actually be a perfect fit into the team, because at the moment the rest of my team has a severe weakness to ground-type Pokemon. So I'm hoping he will be able to wall all of those ground moves. Not too long later, the egg started cracking, then hatching. I was so excited to welcome our newest member to the family. And I don't know why, but I knew Tank was the right name for him. He was adorable, but very tiny and weak. Only being level 1, Tank had a lot of work to do in order to catch up with the big dogs on the team. I could toss an XP share on Tank and let him reap the rewards of Hephaestus defeating high-level Pokemon on his behalf, but I wanted Tank to experience battles on his own. It wouldn't have taken too long to get him to level 100 using my other Pokemon, and that didn't seem right. So I put all my other Pokemon in the PC and continued the journey with just him. I kept wandering around the desert, but found no Pokemon I thought Tank would be capable of defeating. Luckily though, his moveset was Ancient Power, Lava Plume, Mud Shot, and Scary Face. Most Pokemon have next to no moves at level 1, but because Tank was a legendary Pokemon, he actually had a pretty good moveset. But given that he's only level 1, it's pretty much impossible to find any Pokemon that he can defeat. No disrespect, buddy, I didn't mean it like that. That is until I had an idea. To go to the ocean biome. I know, this makes no sense. Tank is weak to water-type Pokemon, so why would I bring him here? Well, there's a certain Pokemon who only knows one move which fails every time it uses it. That Pokemon spawns in the ocean biome. Its name, Magikarp. I hope Tank is hungry for some fish, because he's about to have an all-you-can-eat buffet. And not too long after finding an ocean biome did the wide-eyed orange fish start spawning. I don't think these things ever blink, but neither did Tank in his first ever battle. I was nervous for him. Imagine being a level 1 Pokemon in the wild. It would be terrifying. Nonetheless, I forced him to engage in battle with the first Magikarp that I found. It was slow, it was painful, but eventually, Tank managed to chip its HP down to 0. He did it! Unfortunately, Magikarps don't give a ton of XP, so Tank only leveled up to level 3. But it was a good enough confidence booster to allow him to take on more of the floppy fish. After a long day of ravaging the aquatic life, it was time to go home and celebrate. Tank was now now level 9, and I had to show him off to the rest of the town. I mentioned this before, but I have a town that lots of trainers reside in. And so I told them all to come over and check out my new Pokemon. Everyone loved him. I just knew he was going to grow up to become something special one day. Then everyone started to send out their Pokemon. Someone even had a baby Yveltal, and Tank seemed to make friends instantly with him. We also saw a level 100 Kyogre, and even a shiny fusion Pokemon, Gardeslash. That thing is insanely powerful. I wanted to show Tank all of the cool buildings in the town, so I started with this one, more of a modern build. Then I took him to what seemed to be the town hall. Check this out, yo, this is sick. Wow, there's even a kitchen and everything. Oh my, he's got a living room with a TV in it. There were houses everywhere, and the coolest part is that there's pathing that goes through the entire town. Checking out all of these builds left me inspired to work on a project of my own. So I got started on something I've been looking forward to for a while now. If you remember, one of my goals in this journey is to get rich. So I decided to start a build that would not only make my plot much cooler, but it would help me get rich. And that build would be a casino. Yes, gambling is bad. Kids, do not gamble unless you gamble in my casino. I had a couple of ideas for what I wanted to do for the gambling mechanic. Originally, I was thinking of a blackjack or a slot machine, but I ended up choosing a roulette table. Roulette tables are simple, fun, and a lot of people can get involved at once. The only problem with roulette tables is they take up a lot of space. And unfortunately, I didn't have that many blocks left in my claimed plot area. So I claimed a vacant plot next to my gym and started building there. This building took me a long time to finish. First and foremost, because I'm a terrible builder. 2, because I wanted it to be as vibrant and epic as possible. And 3, the most challenging part, it required a lot of complicated redstone mechanics. But after a little while longer, it was finished. Voila! And as an added touch, I put the medallion on Meowth's forehead on the casino entrance since he's the symbol of coins and money. Anyway, this is what it looks like inside. Honestly, I was pretty happy with how it turned out, and especially how the game itself works. The way it operates is players place bets on which color they think the light or roulette board will land on. I even made this poster showing the weights of the payouts. So for example, if someone bets $1,000 on red, because it's a 2 times payout, I have to pay them $2,000. If someone bets $1,000 on green and the light lands on green, I have to pay them $8,000. The best color for the light to land on is the black space, because if it ever does land on the black space, the house, me, wins all the bets placed. It's a simple but very fun game. I was really eager to start taking on customers, but awkwardly enough, it would still be a couple of days before I could officially welcome them. You see, I may have spent all my money purchasing blocks in order to build the casino itself. Think of this as an investment. In order for a casino to operate, they need to have enough money in reserve in the off chance that they, lose, which maybe could potentially end up happening to me. So, to be safe, I needed to spend the next couple of days racking in some cash so I could afford to pay people off and not be in debt. But that wouldn't happen anyway. Like, I was just being safe, right? Right? So, I went to the boss tower for a little while because it's a simple, mindless way to get some money. Each boss that you defeat not only drops a couple of $100s, but also some items that you can sell to shopkeepers. After grinding the tower for about an hour or so, I managed to make about $50,000. This was still nowhere near my end goal of $1 million, but it was at least a good start. I didn't want the casino to flood with people the second I opened it because I only had $50,000, which wasn't enough to welcome too many gamblers at one time. So I discreetly ran around my village looking for a player who might want to be my first customer. And the first player I found was named Miltank Utters 17. I hate to say it, but this player could not have been more than 8 years old. And I was hoping to take all of their money. I welcomed him with open arms into my grand casino, and he seemed pretty excited to be here. I explained the rules to him, but to be honest, I wasn't sure he ever understood. Regardless, I let him place his first bet, and, well, he did not hold back. $10,000 on red. Whew! Off to a hot start. He sent me the $10,000 in advance. After I pressed the button, the lights lit up in a circle going counterclockwise. I held my breath and waited as the anticipation grew. The first official roulette spin was underway, and it was an anxiety-inducing one. And just a couple of seconds later, the lights stopped. It landed on red. $20,000 down the drain. It definitely wasn't the best start to my Grand Casino opening, but I still had hope. Miltank Utter 17 wasn't done either. He bets again. $10,000 on blue. If successful, this would have a 4 times payout, meaning if I lost this spin, I would be back to being bankrupt. It was at that moment that I contemplated all my life choices. Why am I here? Why did I choose to build this stupid casino? No, I stopped doubting myself. This was it. This is what it's all about right here. This is how we get rich. Spin that wheel! It landed on blue and Miltank Utter 17 took all the money and left. I don't really know what to say. After all that work, I'm back to square one once again. I needed to take a break and get my mind off this stupid casino. So I decided to move on from this project and come back to it later. In the meantime, I worked on my legendary scroll. This is another very tedious task that would take hours to complete, but it would keep my mind off the fact that I just lost $50,000 after spending a lot more than that on the building itself. And to rub salt in the wound, it was to a player named Miltank Utters. Anyway, the first challenge on the scroll was to defeat 84 ground type Pokemon. I already had some progress made from killing the trap pitches earlier, so I only had to defeat another 70. I teleported to the desert biome and got to work. And once again, the genocide of Trapinches may or may not have occurred. I don't know how they keep reproducing because their average lifespan has been cut to about 15 seconds due to Sponge and his steam eruption. Eventually though, the first challenge was complete. Next, I had to capture 67 dark type Pokemon. This was going to be a pain. Eliminating Pokemon was one thing, but catching them was another. You see, Pokemon actually have a pretty good chance of breaking out of Pokeballs, making it much more tedious than just easily eliminating them with one click. The most common dark type Pokemon I could think of was Vullaby and Sandile, both of whom spawn in the desert biome. So I stayed where I was, but instead of causing a massacre, I was, let's say, adopting tiny Pokemon. And by adopting, I meant forcing infant Pokemon into a Pokeball to never see the light of day again and spend the rest of eternity rotting in a PC next to their cousins. But hey, as long as I'm completing my legendary scroll, I don't feel bad at all. I eventually caught the 67th dark type Pokemon, and it was a Sandile. This task took surprisingly long, to be honest, and I was very glad that it was over. And last but not least, it was time to level up Pokemon 200 times and evolve 20 of them. These were the easiest of the challenges so far, as all I had to do was put low-level Pokemon in my party and activate an XP all. Then I just destroyed the trainers at Slash Warp training for a bit, and next thing I knew, bada bing, bada boom, the last 2 challenges were complete. So then I grabbed my legendary scroll and redeemed the rewards for completing it. I received $30,000, 2 fusion shards, a fate crate key, and 2,500 smash coins. I do want to emphasize that completing these scrolls would typically not result in any smash coin reward, but the management team agreed to give me the smash currency if I completed some of their challenges. You can do a lot with 2,500 coins, as you can see in the store. One thing that I wanted to purchase in the first 100 days of this challenge was one of the textured legendary eggs. Instead, I bought an epic lucky block, which honestly ended up being pretty good. But this time, I will do as my heart desires and buy a legendary textured egg. This will guarantee a legendary Pokemon with a really cool texture. It wasn't a very easy decision though, because there were so many cool eggs to choose from. Galaxy, Crimson, Crystal, Shadow, Ancient, and Corrupted. I didn't know what to choose because they all seemed so epic. Ultimately though, I went with the Galaxy egg. I just felt like it was the coolest concept of them all. But now, I was really nervous. What if the legendary I got was bad? I really don't want to get a Fion or a Type Null or something trash like that. And honestly, I needed it to be something strong because I plan on going to the war zone later and my team still had some big weaknesses. After I purchased the egg, it went straight into my Pokemon party. And surprisingly, it didn't take long for it to hatch. Here we go. After grinding for hours to complete the legendary scroll, what are we going to get? A Zacian! This is perfect! Zacian is one of the most overpowered Pokemon of all time. It's extremely fast, has a ton of attack, and and is an amazing typing in Fairy. The only problem with it is that in its Crown Sword form, it adds the Steel typing. Overall, the combination of Fairy and Steel is one of the best typings in the game, but the problem is now it would be weak to ground types, just like the majority of my team. I was still extremely happy to welcome Zacian to the team. I rode him around my town and showed him off to the other residents. Everyone was so happy for me and sent out their coolest Pokemon as well. The only annoying part about hatching this Zacian is that it's only level 1 and will require quite a bit of training in order to make him battle ready, which, by the way, will be one of my next tasks, to battle myself. That's right, it's time to put my team to the ultimate test. If you guys remember, in the first 100 days, I got absolutely destroyed by the Sirud NPC at the top of the boss tower. He is incredibly strong, but as a reward for defeating him, or me, whatever, you get a Mega Band. These are needed to Mega Evolve Pokemon, which is one of my goals. If I can attain the Mega Band, I'll instantly be able to Mega Evolve Noodle into Mega Rayquaza. The problem is, the first time around, I never even came close to beating him, but I won't let that memory dampen my optimism this time. With Wolf and Tank at full power, I'm more confident than ever that I can take him out. First things first though, I need to get Tank and Wolf prepared. So I went back to the training area and grinded those trainers until their levels were in the triple digits. Oh, also, this happened. Tank finally evolved into the giant monstrosity that he was always destined to become. A fully grown Groudon. Then it was time for the ultimate challenge. I climbed the boss tower to the top where the most menacing trainer stayed. I felt like Shrek rescuing Fiona at the top of a castle, except instead of rescuing, I was there for a slaughter. And by golly gosh, did a slaughter happen. I led with my newest Pokemon, Galaxy Zacian, also known as Wolf. As predicted, he led with Spiritomb, which is exactly what he did last time. Luckily, the Spiritomb went for a Sucker Punch, and Sucker Punch only works if the opposing Pokemon uses a damaging move. And since I clicked Swords Dance, the Sucker Punch failed. So I decided to get greedy and go for another Swords Dance, increasing my Zacian's attack to 3 times attack. And again, for some odd reason, the Spiritomb went for another Sucker Punch and failed. This was the absolute perfect scenario. My Zacian was now fully set up to sweep his team. So then I clicked Play Rough, one of Zacian's strongest moves, and Spiritomb's health bar dropped faster than you can possibly imagine. Keep in mind, his Pokemon were all level 140, and the next Pokemon had the exact same fate, dead. They were all dropping like flies. He sent out Mega Pokemon and even Fusion Pokemon, but once Wolf was set up, there was nothing that could be done to stop him. Wolf 1 versus 6'd his entire team. Victory! It was kind of sad to look into my own eyes after completely obliterating the NPC, but I couldn't help but be joyful. I quickly equipped the newly acquired Mega Ring, and boy oh boy was this thing shiny. I looked so cool. The first thing I did was sprint out of that boss tower and Mega Evolve my first ever Pokemon, Noodle. He has come so far in this journey and has become one of the strongest Pokemon to ever exist. Mega Rayquaza is easily one of the coolest and scariest looking Pokemon. I'm glad he's on my side. Tank is another Pokemon that has the ability to Mega Evolve. Well, in this case, Primal Evolve. But in order to do so, I need to get myself a red orb. I needed to fish with a Super Rod in lava to fish up 9 red shards and combine them all in a crafting table to create the orb. So that's exactly what I did. I went back home, grabbed the best rod I could find, and fished in a lava lake in a desert for a while. I fished up Torkoal after Torkoal and Macargo after Macargo until my eyes started to feel heavy. I was getting exhausted fishing here for so long, and eventually, after no luck, I gave up. My hopes and dreams of attaining a Primal Groudon were dwindling. I was starting to come to terms with the fact that I may have to be okay with only attaining 1 Mega Pokemon in these 100 days. With time running out, it didn't make much sense to continue to chase after this goal. So I TP'd back home to clear my head and figure out what I wanted to do next. And that's when I stumbled across my arch nemesis, Miltank Utters 17. The stars were aligning. I knew what I had to do. I proposed to him another session at the Pokecasino, to which he obliged. So together, we ran back to my gambling building. If I was able to win, and win big, there's a chance I could make enough money to purchase a red orb from another player on the server. That would save me hours of work trying to fish for one. For the first time in a while, my hopes were high. The roulette board was just how we left it, and the memories of me losing $50,000 in just a few moments flooded my brain. I only had $42,000 to my name this time. Miltank Utters was already familiar with the rules of the game and was excited to get going. To make matters even more stressful, his first bet was for 98% of my net worth. Instantly, my heart started going crazy. I knew that this was pretty much make or break for my dream of 1, becoming a millionaire, and 2, getting my hands on a red orb. After a few deep breaths, I pressed the button to initiate the redstone contraption. The machine kicked into gear and the lamps lit in a counterclockwise fashion. In my head, I just kept repeating the words, "Please not red, please not red," until eventually the light stopped for good. Blue! It landed on blue! We just won a $40,000 wager. Our new balance was up to $82,000, which was the most that we've had in a while. The joy that I was feeling didn't last too long though, as I asked him if he wanted to play again, and boy oh boy did he ever. He quickly responded $50,000 on blue. This means that if I lose, I would owe him $200,000, which I didn't even have. Reluctantly, I accepted his bet. I stepped up to the center of the table and pressed the magic button once again. The wheel spun and even faked this out a couple of times, as for a second it seemed to stop on black, then red, but it was all just deception as the wheel continued to spin. But after one more time around the roulette table, the lights stopped. One light short of blue. I got lucky there. This time around, we are 2 for 2 and up $90,000. Miltank Utters reacted by messaging me, "This game stink." Although my empathy was starting to creep in, my greed outweighed it. I asked if he wanted to play again. He told me that he has $100,000 left and wanted to put all of it on green. This probably wasn't the most responsible decision, but I accepted his bet. If the light were to land on green on this spin, I would owe him $800,000. I took one last deep breath and pushed the button. Around and around the lights went. Then, all of a sudden, bang! And it landed on red! We did it! 3 for 3 and up $190,000. Sadly for Miltank Utters, once again, the light landed just 1 block short of what he bet on. It goes without saying that he was not too happy. He didn't stick around too long either. With a dirt block in his hand, he ran right out the front door, never to look back again. I sent him one last apology because I genuinely did feel bad, but he did end up helping us out quite a bit for reasons that he didn't even know. I didn't really know how much a red orb costed, but I did know that they were extremely rare. I really hoped that I had enough, so I asked in chat if anyone was selling one. And to my surprise, a trader named Layton responded saying that he had one and was willing to sell it for $125K. I wasn't sure if I was getting scammed or not, but he seemed like a pretty trustworthy guy. Without much thought, I sent the money over and he dropped the orb to me. And just like that, I had my hands on one of the most powerful items in the game. An item that gave one of the strongest Pokemon the ability to evolve into its primal form. The orb looked as amazing as I had imagined. It was a big, bright red orb with a yellow emblem embedded on it. I admired it for quite some time, but eventually I tossed it onto my Groudon. I sent him out into my front yard and Primal evolved him. To be honest, I don't know which one I liked more. Both Noodle and Tank looked absolutely amazing. My team was as strong as it had ever been by a mile, and I couldn't wait to test it out in battle. One of the best features of having Groudon is its ability, Desolate Land. This ability summons the sun, which powers up fire-type moves. Also, when Groudon Primal evolves, it acquires the fire typing as well, making it a ground and fire type. This is also important because now when it uses fire-type moves, it will also get a 50% boost in damage. But with all that being said, I think it's finally time for the ultimate test. To enter the war zone. This is where the best players in the world are. People who come here come for war. They are ruthless battlers whose only goal is to steal other players' Pokemon. Today, that battler will be me. My heart was pounding when I entered the sacred lands of the war zone, but I was still very confident. I think I was just more excited than anything, but I knew that if I lost a battle and someone stole one of my team members, I would be heartbroken. Nonetheless, I was confident enough in their abilities to perform and beat the majority of other trainers. Anyway, the war zone was a cool summer theme, which took some of the tension off. I ran around exploring looking for cool Pokemon to catch, and I found a lot of random ones that were pretty cool, but none that I was allowed to use in these 100 days, as none of them were legendary. I was still optimistic though, because this place is is known to spawn many legendary Pokemon, and I wasn't seeing any trainers to contest me if one did spawn. And so I was able to relax a bit. I saw some really cool statues like Ludicolo and Pelipper, and even some nice tiki huts as well. But as cool as the scenery was, it's not what I was here for. I had been told that legendaries should spawn every couple of minutes, and I don't believe most of what I get told by random players, but this time they weren't lying. Not too long after joining the war zone, a floral Lugia spawned. Not only was Lugia one of the strongest legendaries, but we also got lucky enough for the spawn to be a custom texture as well. It was a beautiful shade of pink and hovered elegantly as I approached it. I was so glad that I remembered my Master Balls because it made this battle so easy. I sent Wolf at it to start the battle, but it didn't really matter because on the first turn, I threw the purple ball with 100% catch rate at it. And just a few wiggles later, the Master Ball clicked, and the Lugia was mine. Let's go! This was the perfect start to the war zone. But even though I caught the Lugia, it still wasn't safe. You see, all the players on the server can see when someone else catches a legendary, so everyone just saw what happened. The reason that's a problem is people can come to the war zone to try to steal it from me. The Lugia won't officially be safe until I leave the war zone and take it out of my Warzone bank. And before I could even react to do that, players started joining the Warzone. I saw a player with a red highlight around them, and that's how I knew I was in trouble. Depending on your rank on the server, your outline changes. Red means you have the Smash rank, which is one of the highest ranks you can get. Lots of the Smash rank players have a legendary fusion Pokemon, and this player was no exception. I turned and ran as fast as I could to get away from them, but nothing I tried worked. Eventually, they caught up to me and engaged me in battle. Once someone triggers a battle, there's no running. All I could do was fight. So that's exactly what I did. I led with Sanic because it was my fastest Pokemon and had the move Volt Switch. Luckily though, they led with a Chien Pao. It was one of the stronger legendaries in the game and it was very fast and hit very hard, but not hard enough. I decided to stay in and click Merora's signature move, Flash Step. This move does 70 damage and increases Merora's speed every time it's used. And 2 clicks later, Chien Pao went down. Next, they sent out Shiny Solgaleo. This thing looked awesome. And again, I went right after it with Sanic, but this time I clicked Plasma Fists. It did a lot of damage, just over half HP, which I was very happy with. But I was even more happy when I saw that Solgaleo missed its move against me. This allowed me to just click Plasma Fist again and take down their second Pokemon with ease. So far, so good, but not for long. The next Pokemon he sent out was a fusion, the new fusion, Hydratina. It was a fusion between Giratina and Hydreigon, creating a 3-headed demonic Pokemon, and let me tell you, it's as scary as it sounds. Hydratina finished Sanic off with ease, and I was left stumped with what to do next. I didn't really feel like I had a great matchup for it, so I just went to Old Faithful, Noodle. You know what they say, when in doubt, noodle it out. Okay, no one says that. But still, what can go wrong by using a level 100 Mega Rayquaza? Nothing is the answer because all I had to do was Mega Evolve and click Outrage and poof, Hydratina was no more. Now, however, I was locked into an Outrage and my opponent knew that. So they sent out a Landorus and made a play I had never seen before. They used Explosion, which KO'd itself, but also took down Noodle with it. He fought well. At this point in the battle, I took out 4 of his Pokemon while he only took out 2 of mine. We had the advantage. I decided to go with my other fusion Pokemon next, Hephaestus, and they sent out a Ho-Oh, making for quite a strange matchup. 2 giant Firebird Pokemon going head to head. We both ended up just clicking the same move, Brave Bird, until only one of us remained. That one was Hephaestus, so things were looking really good. His last Pokemon that he sent out was no wimpy one though. It was a Mewtwo. And although Mewtwo is extremely strong and very frightening to face, I felt very confident having 3 Pokemon behind Hephaestus. Mewtwo did end up taking Hephaestus down, but that did allow me to switch into a great type matchup for me with X-Wing being a Dark type. Dark is not only super effective against Psychic, but Psychic doesn't even affect Dark type Pokemon. This was perfect. I commanded X-Wing to use Dark Pulse, and the rest was history. Mewtwo went down, and I won the battle. I was so hype. Then I was abruptly prompted to select a Pokemon that I wanted to steal from my opponent. Honestly, I kind of forgot about that part. I was just so focused on not losing that I didn't think about stealing one of his Pokemon during the battle. I only had 30 seconds to act, and time was ticking. There were so many good options. Chien-Pao, Mewtwo, Shiny Solgaleo, but all of these options were nothing compared to the beast himself, Hydra-Tina. The choice was clear, and Hydra-Tina was mine. After I made my selection, I quickly typed /safe place to get out of the war zone. When I got back home, the whole experience felt surreal. I couldn't believe that I just caught a textured legendary and stole a fusion so quickly back to back. I instantly sent both of the Pokemon out in my front yard to check them out, and they did not disappoint. Both Pokemon were just so amazing looking. I don't even know what Pokemon I thought was my coolest at this point. I'm not sure I was the only one who thought that though. My old friend Miltank Utters showed up, but he didn't seem too happy. I think he was still sad from his loss from earlier, and seeing my success probably didn't help much. Honestly, I felt bad for him. Then he ran away, so I followed. I don't know if this was his house, but it seemed like he stopped running in a very random spot. He quickly turned around and said hi. I felt so bad. I had literally taken hundreds of thousands of dollars from this poor player, and he was clearly hurt by it. So I had an idea. I told him that I had a present for him, which seemed to cheer him up. I did what I felt was the right thing to do in the moment, and I gifted him the newly acquired floral Lugia. I thought he would be used much more in his hands than mine. Let's be honest. My team is so strong, I don't even know if Lugia would fit. That seemed to really cheer him up. He started saying OMG to me in chat and thanked me very much. He even told me that he's going to show his mom. Eventually, he sent the Lugia out and started riding it. As epic as an experience as I'm sure it was for him, I don't think he's rode a Pokemon before, because he instantly shot very high up into the sky, then fell just as quickly down to his death. He has so much to learn. I could tell that he was grateful for my gift, and even decided to give me something back in return. He told me that he had a present for me, but didn't know what it was. He dropped a dark red square-shaped figure to me, and my eyes widened. That wasn't just any random item. It was a Draco plate, one of the 18 plates required to spawn in Arceus. I thanked him very much for his gift. Then he told me goodbye and ran off. I don't think he realized how good of an item he just gave me. These plates were incredibly rare. Unfortunately though, this was the last day of the 200 days, and I didn't have any more time to collect any more of the plates to summon the god Pokemon. We have come so far, but still came short of one of our goals to become rich. I'd love to finally complete that goal and go after Arceus in the next 100 days. So if you guys want to see more of this journey, make sure to support this video by leaving a like and subscribing.